My entitled stepdaughter stole money from me, so I issued an ultimatum to my husband: kick her out or divorce. I found the money missing from my jewelry box on a Tuesday morning when I was getting ready for work. $500 in cash I kept for true emergencies, completely gone. The box wasn't damaged, nothing else was touched or moved around, just the money had vanished overnight. I'm Lisa, and I've been married to David for 3 years now. His daughter Chloe is 17 and has lived with us full-time since her mom died in a car accident 4 years ago. She's always been difficult, constantly testing boundaries, pushing limits, doing the typical rebellious teenager stuff that drives me crazy. But stealing from family was crossing a line I absolutely could not and would not ignore. I confronted Chloe the moment she got home from school that afternoon. She denied it completely, got immediately defensive and angry, said she had absolutely no idea what I was talking about, and how dare I accuse her. But she wouldn't look me directly in the eyes during our conversation, kept fidgeting nervously with her phone and avoiding eye contact. When David came home from his construction job, I told him exactly what had happened. He said we should give Chloe the benefit of the doubt. Maybe I'd somehow misplaced the money somewhere else in the house. That response made me absolutely furious because I knew exactly where I'd put it and when. I demanded he search her bedroom immediately. We found nothing suspicious, but that didn't change my mind at all. Who else possibly could have taken it? David and I were both at work all day, and Chloe had called in sick to school with a supposed stomach bug. The next day, another $100 disappeared from my purse while I was showering before work. This time I was absolutely certain someone was deliberately taking my money. I drove to the electronics store and installed a small security camera in our bedroom that night, hidden behind books where nobody would notice it. On Thursday afternoon, the camera caught everything I needed to see. Chloe entered our room around 3 p.m. when she thought the house was empty. She went straight to my dresser, opened the top drawer methodically, and took cash directly from my wallet with practiced efficiency. Clear, undeniable video evidence of theft from my own stepdaughter. I showed David the footage that evening after dinner. He watched it 3 complete times without saying a single word, his face getting noticeably paler with each viewing. Finally, he admitted that yes, Chloe had been taking money from us, but he begged me desperately not to involve police. I gave him my final ultimatum right there in our living room. Either Chloe leaves our house immediately and permanently, or I file for divorce within the week. I absolutely refused to continue living with a thief, especially one who showed zero remorse for her actions. David asked for just 24 hours to figure things out properly. He said there were important things about the entire situation that I didn't understand, serious complications that made everything much more complex than simple teenage rebellion. But I was completely done with his excuses and mysterious complications. Chloe had stolen from me twice that I knew of, lied about it to my face, and David had initially defended her even when confronted with crystal clear video evidence. That night around midnight, I heard David and Chloe talking quietly in the kitchen. I couldn't make out specific words through the walls, but Chloe was definitely crying and David's voice sounded desperate, almost pleading with her about something urgent. The next morning, David sat me down with coffee and said he needed to tell me something important he'd been hiding for months, something critical about why Chloe really needed that money so badly. His hands were visibly shaking as he opened his laptop and showed me emails I'd never seen before. Medical bills, insurance claims, appointment confirmations from specialists. And that's when I finally discovered what Chloe had actually been doing with every dollar she'd taken. I stare at the screen, my coffee growing cold beside me as David scrolls through email after email, medical records, test results, oncology consultations. Chloe's name is at the top of each document, followed by terrifying words like stage 4 and metastasized and terminal prognosis. 4 months ago, David says, his voice barely above a whisper, she started having these headaches that wouldn't go away. I thought it was just stress from school, maybe depression about her mom, but then she collapsed during track practice. The MRI results on the screen show a tumor the size of a golf ball nestled in Chloe's brain. The surrounding medical jargon is complex, but the summary at the bottom is devastatingly clear. Without immediate and aggressive treatment, she has less than 6 months to live. Why didn't you tell me? I ask, my voice sounding strange and distant to my own ears. She made me promise not to. David runs his hands through his hair, a nervous habit I've seen 1,000 times before but never understood the weight behind until now. She was afraid you'd leave if things got complicated, that you'd think she was too much trouble. The accusation hangs in the air between us. Hadn't I just given him an ultimatum about kicking her out? Hadn't I just proven Chloe's fears completely justified? The insurance denied the experimental treatment. David continues, clicking through to show me denial letters and appeals, said it was unproven, too risky, but it's her only real chance. I remember the conversation I overheard last night, the crying, the desperation in David's voice. It wasn't about the stealing at all. She found an experimental trial in Switzerland. David explains, showing me a website for a specialized oncology center. They're having success with cases just like hers, but they want payment up front, all of it. He clicks to a final email with a number that makes my stomach drop. $200,000, a sum so impossible it might as well be $2 million. I've emptied my $401k, David says, maxed out every credit card, borrowed from everyone I know. Chloe's been working weekends at the mall. We're still $50,000 short, and they won't start treatment until we pay in full. The reality crashes over me like a wave. The money Chloe took wasn't for drugs or clothes or whatever frivolous teenage things I'd assumed. She was trying to save her own life. The deadline is next week, David says, his voice breaking. If we don't get the money by then, they'll give her spot to someone else. That's why she's been getting desperate. That's why she took your money. I think about the camera I installed, the smug satisfaction I felt catching her in the act, the ultimatum I delivered without a second thought. Shame burns through me, hot and suffocating. Why didn't she just ask me? I whisper. Would you have believed her? David asks, and the question hits me like a slap. You've always thought the worst of her. She was afraid you'd think it was just another lie. I open my mouth to protest but stop myself. Haven't I always assumed the worst about Chloe? Haven't I been quick to label her difficult, rebellious, entitled? I think about how I reacted when the money went missing, immediately suspecting her, refusing to consider any other explanation, installing a camera to catch her rather than having an actual conversation. I need to talk to her, I say, standing up suddenly. She's in her room, David says. She hasn't left since your ultimatum. I walk down the hallway, each step heavier than the last. I knock softly on Chloe's door, half expecting her to tell me to go away. When she doesn't answer, I push it open gently. Chloe is sitting on her bed, surrounded by papers, printouts of medical articles, treatment options, clinical trials. Her laptop is open to a fundraising website with her picture and a half-written story about her diagnosis. She looks up at me, and I'm struck by how I never noticed the dark circles under her eyes, the way her clothes hang loosely on her frame, how pale her skin has become. I know, I say simply. David showed me everything. So now you're going to kick me out because I'm a thief and a liar, she says flatly. There's no fight in her voice, just resignation. She's already accepted what she thinks is coming. I cross the room and sit beside her on the bed. No, I say. Now I'm going to help you fight this. Her eyes widen in surprise, then narrow with suspicion. Why would you help me? You hate me. The words hit me hard because I realize that's exactly what I've communicated to her over the years. Not with words, perhaps, but with actions, with assumptions, with the wall I built between us. I don't hate you, Chloe. I've been a terrible stepmother. I never gave you a real chance. I haven't exactly made it easy, she admits, looking down at her hands. How much have you raised so far? I ask, nodding toward her laptop. $150,000, she says. Dad put in most of it. We're still $50,000 short, and the deadline is next Friday. I take a deep breath. Then we have a week to find $50,000. She looks at me skeptically. Just like that? You're gonna help me after I stole from you? You should have told me, I say. You should have trusted me. Would you have trusted you? She asks, echoing her father's question. I don't have an answer for that. Instead, I reach out and take her hand. It feels small and fragile in mine, and I realize with startling clarity that this isn't my rebellious teenage stepdaughter sitting before me. This is a scared child facing her own mortality. I'm sorry, I tell her, and I mean it more deeply than any apology I've ever given. I'm so sorry for everything, but we're going to fix this together. For the first time since I've known her, Chloe doesn't pull away from my touch. Instead, she squeezes my hand back, and in that small gesture, I feel the first fragile bridge forming between us. I spend the entire night researching Chloe's type of cancer. My laptop screen illuminates the darkness of our living room as I scroll through medical journals, clinical trials, and patient forums. Glioblastoma multiforme. The words sound alien and terrifying. Aggressive brain cancer with a median survival rate of 14 to 16 months with standard treatment. I read case after case of families devastated, of treatments that extend life by months rather than years. By morning, my eyes are burning, but I understand why that clinic in Switzerland represents such hope. Their experimental immunotherapy treatment has shown promising results in cases similar to Chloe's cases that traditional medicine had written off as terminal. You've been up all night, David says, finding me still on the couch at 6 a.m. He looks exhausted, the weight of these past months visible in the slump of his shoulders. I needed to understand what we're dealing with, I reply, turning the screen toward him. I found 3 other cases where patients with Chloe's exact diagnosis responded to this treatment. One is 2 years cancer-free now. David sits beside me, his coffee mug cradled between his hands. I've read all those. That's why we've been fighting so hard to get her into this program. Why didn't you tell me you took out a second mortgage? I ask, having discovered the paperwork in his email while searching for more information about Chloe's medical history. He looks away. I didn't want you to worry. You didn't sign up for this when you married me. I signed up for everything when I married you, I say firmly. That's what, for better or worse, means. Chloe was convinced you'd leave if you knew, he admits. She said you already resented her being here, and that a sick stepdaughter would be the last straw. His words cut deep because there's truth in them. I had resented Chloe's presence in our lives. I'd treated her like an inconvenience, rather than a child who had lost her mother and was now fighting for her life. I need to talk to her, I say, standing up. But when I knock on Chloe's door, there's no answer. David tells me she left early for school, something she's been doing since her diagnosis, to avoid questions about her increasingly obvious weight loss and fatigue. She's been avoiding me, I realize aloud, not just since yesterday but for months. She's embarrassed, David explains as we eat breakfast, about the stealing, about keeping the cancer secret. She thinks you hate her even more now. I need to fix this, I say, already formulating a plan. We need that $50,000 by next Friday. After David leaves for work, I call my boss and request a personal day. Then I drive to my bank, where I withdraw the $15,000 I've been saving for a kitchen renovation. It's not enough, but it's a start. Next, I visit 3 different jewelry stores, selling my grandmother's pearls, the diamond earrings David gave me for our anniversary, and the gold bracelet I bought myself when I got my promotion last year, another $8,000. When I get home, I find Chloe sitting at the kitchen table, home early from school. She looks pale, and there's a bruise on her arm from her latest blood draw. What are you doing here? She asks, suspicious. I place an envelope on the table. $23,000, I say. It's a start. She stares at the envelope, then at me, my savings, and I sold some jewelry. Your grandmother's pearls? She asks, eyes widening. But you love those. They're just things, Chloe, I say, sitting across from her. They don't matter. She's quiet for a long moment, tracing a pattern on the table with her finger. Why are you doing this, after I stole from you? Because I should have been there for you from the beginning. I tell her honestly, I've been a terrible stepmother. I never gave you a chance because I was too busy feeling threatened by your relationship with your dad. I tried to hate you, she admits quietly. I thought if I hated you enough, it wouldn't hurt when you left us. I'm not leaving, I promise her. Not now, not ever. She looks up at me, her eyes glistening with tears. Even if I die? The question knocks the wind out of me. You're not going to die, I say fiercely. We're going to get you to that clinic. We're still $27,000 short, she points out. And the deadline's next Friday. Then we'd better get to work, I say, opening my laptop. I've been making a list of ideas. That evening, David comes home to find Chloe and me at the dining room table, surrounded by papers and laptops. For the first time, I see something like hope in his eyes. We hold a family meeting after dinner. David spreads out all of Chloe's medical records, the treatment plan from Switzerland, and our current financial situation. The reality is stark. Without this experimental treatment, Chloe has approximately 3 months left. The tumor is growing rapidly, and conventional treatments have failed to slow its progress. The doctor called today, David says, his voice breaking. The latest scan shows growth in the secondary tumors. Chloe sits quietly, watching us discuss her life as though it's a business problem to be solved. I reach over and take her hand, surprised when she doesn't pull away. We need $27,000 more, I say, determined. I have some ideas. I've contacted my college roommate who works at a medical foundation, and I'm going to talk to the insurance company again tomorrow. They've already denied it 3 times. David sighs. They haven't dealt with me yet, I reply with more confidence than I feel. Later that night, I find Chloe in the bathroom, hunched over the toilet. She's been sick, and when she looks up at me, there's such vulnerability in her eyes that it breaks my heart. I don't want to die, she whispers. I kneel beside her, holding back her hair as she gets sick again. I promise, though I have no right to make such promises, we're going to fight this together. When she's finished, I help her back to bed. As I'm about to leave, she calls my name. Lisa? Yes? Thank you, she says softly, for not giving up on me. I stand in her doorway, watching as she drifts off to sleep, and make a silent vow that I will move heaven and earth to save this child. Not because she's David's daughter, but because in this moment, I realize she's become mine too. I reach out to my college friend Meredith the moment I wake up. We haven't spoken in almost 2 years, but desperation makes me bold. Meredith survived a rare form of lymphoma 5 years ago, after her wealthy family found an experimental treatment in Germany. Her recovery was nothing short of miraculous. Lisa, I skip the pleasantries. I need your help, Mer. My stepdaughter has glioblastoma, stage 4. The insurance won't cover the experimental treatment that could save her. There's a pause. Oh, Lisa, I'm so sorry. I explain everything: Chloe's diagnosis, the clinic in Switzerland, the money we've raised, the deadline looming next Friday. My voice cracks when I tell her we're still $27,000 short. I wouldn't ask if there was any other option, I finish, hating the desperation in my voice. Let me make some calls, Meredith promises. My father's foundation might be able to help. I can't promise anything, but I'll try. After I hang up, I check my email and find a message from the Swiss clinic that makes my stomach drop. They've moved up their payment deadline. The full amount is due in 3 days, not next Friday, or they'll give Chloe's spot to another patient. This can't be happening, I whisper, staring at the screen. David walks in, immediately sensing something's wrong. When I show him the email, he collapses into a chair. They can't do this, he says, but we both know they can. We don't have enough time. I grab my car keys. I'm going to the insurance company. In person, today. The Midwest Health Insurance headquarters is a gleaming glass building downtown. I've dressed in my most professional outfit, armed with a folder containing all of Chloe's medical records, research papers on the treatment's efficacy, and letters from her oncologist. The receptionist tries to redirect me to customer service, but I refuse to leave until I speak with someone who can actually make decisions. After 2 hours of waiting, I'm finally shown into the office of Bradley Simmons, Vice President of Claims. Mrs. Walker, he says without looking up from his computer, I understand you're upset about your claim denial, but I've reviewed the file and our decision stands. The treatment is experimental and not covered under your policy. My stepdaughter is 17 years old, I say, keeping my voice steady. Without this treatment, she has 3 months to live. With it, she has a chance. He finally looks at me, his expression practiced sympathy. I'm very sorry, but insurance is about managing risk across populations. We can't approve treatments without sufficient evidence of efficacy. Evidence. I slide across 3 research papers. These show a 62% response rate in cases identical to Chloe's. That's better odds than the approved treatments that failed her. He glances at the papers without reading them. Our medical review board has made their determination. Something inside me snaps. I pull out my phone and start recording. What are you doing? He asks, alarmed. Documenting this conversation for the media story I'm preparing, I say calmly. I think people would be interested to know that Midwest Health denied life-saving treatment to a teenage cancer patient despite evidence of efficacy, especially when your company reported record profits last quarter. His face hardens. That's inappropriate and potentially defamatory. What's inappropriate is letting a child die when you have the power to prevent it. I lean forward. I've already contacted 3 local news stations and the health reporter at the Tribune. They're very interested in Chloe's story. It's a bluff, but a calculated one. The last thing insurance companies want is bad publicity around denied claims to sympathetic patients. Turn off the recording, he says, his tone shifting. Let me see what I can do. I drive home with a tentative promise for a compassionate review, but nothing concrete. When I arrive, I find my mother sitting in our living room with David. Her presence is unexpected and unwelcome. Mom, what are you doing here? She stands, smoothing her expensive slacks. David called me. He thought I might be able to help with your situation. The way she says situation makes my skin crawl. We need money for Chloe's treatment, I say bluntly. $50,000 by Friday. My mother sighs. Lisa, I understand you want to help, but this is excessive. She's not even your daughter. Mom, no. Let me finish. You've known this girl for 3 years. She's stolen from you, and now you're selling your jewelry and emptying your savings for her? What about your future with David? What about the family you might have together someday? Her words hang in the air like poison. David looks horrified but says nothing. She is my family, I say firmly, and she needs me. She's your stepdaughter, my mother corrects. There's a difference. Not to me. Not anymore. My phone rings before the argument can escalate further. It's Chloe's school. My heart stops when I hear the nurse's voice. Mrs. Walker? Chloe collapsed during 3rd period. We've called an ambulance. The hospital waiting room is cold and sterile. David paces while I sit rigidly in an uncomfortable chair, watching doctors come and go. When Chloe's oncologist finally approaches, his expression is grim. The tumor is growing more aggressively than we anticipated, he explains. The pressure on her brain caused the collapse. We've started steroids to reduce the swelling, but this is concerning. How long does she have? David asks, his voice breaking. The doctor hesitates. Without intervention? Weeks, not months. I feel like I'm drowning. We need more time. We're trying to get her into a treatment program in Switzerland, but we need 3 more days to secure the funding. I understand, the doctor says gently, but her condition is deteriorating rapidly. I'm not sure she can travel safely even if you get the funding. When we're finally allowed to see her, Chloe looks impossibly small in the hospital bed, tubes and monitors surrounding her. Her skin is pale, almost translucent, and her hair has thinned dramatically from the previous treatments. Hey, she says weakly when she sees us. Sorry for the drama. I sit beside her bed and take her hand. You always did know how to make an entrance. She smiles faintly. Did I ruin our chances? For Switzerland? Absolutely not, I say firmly. We're still going, but the money... We'll get it, I promise, though I have no idea how. That night, after David falls into an exhausted sleep in the chair beside Chloe's bed, I step into the hallway and make a call. Midwest Health Insurance, Emergency Claims Department. This is Lisa Walker. I need to speak with Bradley Simmons immediately. Ma'am, it's after hours. Tell him it's about Chloe Walker's case and the press conference I've scheduled for tomorrow morning. 10 minutes later, my phone rings. It's Simmons. Mrs. Walker, these tactics are inappropriate. My stepdaughter is lying in a hospital bed right now because your company values profits over her life, I say, my voice shaking with rage. I'm done being appropriate. Either you approve her treatment by noon tomorrow, or I'm going public with everything: the denied claims, the moved deadlines, the records showing her doctor recommended this treatment months ago. There's a long silence. I can't just— Yes, you can. And you will. Because I will burn your company to the ground in the court of public opinion if Chloe dies because of your red tape. I hang up before he can respond and lean against the wall, exhausted. A text comes through from Meredith. My father's foundation can contribute $15,000. Working on more. Don't give up. It's not enough, but it's something. Combined with what we've already raised, we're down to needing just $12,000 more. I return to Chloe's room and find her awake, watching David sleep. He hasn't left that chair in hours, she whispers. I sit on the edge of her bed. He loves you more than anything in this world. She looks at me, her eyes surprisingly clear despite the medication. Why are you doing all this for me? After everything? Because that's what mothers do, I say simply. And I may have been late to the party, but I'm here now. Chloe's eyes fill with tears. I was awful to you. We were awful to each other. I correct her, but that's in the past. She squeezes my hand weakly. If this doesn't work, it will. But if it doesn't, she insists, I want you to know I'm glad you married my dad. He deserves someone who fights as hard as you do. I lean forward and kiss her forehead, making her another silent promise. Whatever it takes, I will get her to Switzerland. I will not let her die. I wake up to the sound of my phone ringing at 5:30 a.m. It's Bradley Simmons from Midwest Health. Mrs. Walker, he says, his voice clipped and formal. The board has reviewed Chloe's case overnight. We'll cover half the treatment cost as part of a new clinical partnership program with the Swiss facility. My hands shake as I process what he's saying. Half? $100,000. That's the best we can do. I want to argue, but we still need $12,000 after Meredith's foundation contribution. Getting another $100,000 is a miracle I can't afford to question. Thank you, I say, swallowing my pride. By close of business today. After hanging up, I rush to Chloe's hospital room, where David is already awake, watching her sleep. The insurance is covering half, I tell him, keeping my voice low, and Meredith's foundation is contributing $15,000. We're down to just $12,000 more. David looks stunned. How did you— I threatened to go to the media, I admit, and I may have implied we already had a press conference scheduled. He laughs softly. The first genuine laugh I've heard from him in days. We still need $12,000 by tomorrow, I remind him. I could sell my truck, he suggests. You need that for work, I counter. We need something faster. That's when the idea hits me. I pull out my phone and create a social media fundraising page titled, Help Chloe Beat Brain Cancer. I upload a photo of Chloe from before her diagnosis, smiling at her track meet, and write a brief explanation of her situation, the experimental treatment, and our deadline. Do you think this will work? David asks skeptically. We're about to find out, I say, hitting publish, and sharing it to every platform I can think of. By noon, we've raised $3,000 from friends, colleagues, and people I haven't spoken to in years. It's not enough, and time is running out. I call the local news stations, pitching Chloe's story as human interest. One reporter seems interested but can't guarantee they'll run it in time. I'm pacing the hospital hallway when my mother arrives, looking uncomfortable in the clinical setting. How is she? She asks stiffly. Fighting, I reply, but we're still short on the money. My mother purses her lips. I've been thinking about what you said, about family. She hands me an envelope. It's $10,000, the rest of what you need. I stare at her, speechless. Don't make this into something it's not, she says quickly. I still think you're being impulsive, but she's important to you, so. I hug her tightly, feeling her stiffen before reluctantly returning the embrace. Thank you, Mom. Well, she says, straightening her jacket, I suppose I should meet this granddaughter of mine properly. The next morning is a blur of activity. The clinic confirms receipt of the full payment, the insurance contribution, Meredith's foundation donation, my mother's gift, and the smaller amounts from our online fundraiser. They've secured Chloe's spot in the treatment program and are expecting us in 3 days. The oncologist is cautiously supportive of Chloe traveling. Her condition is stable enough for now, but don't delay. Every day matters. We spend the next 48 hours in a frenzy of preparation, arranging medical transport, securing passports, packing essentials. Chloe is quiet through most of it, watching us with a mixture of hope and fear that breaks my heart. What if we go all the way there and it doesn't work? She asks me the night before we leave, her voice small in the darkness of her hospital room. I sit on the edge of her bed. Then we'll know we did everything possible. I'm scared, she admits. Me too, I tell her honestly, but we're going to face this together. The flight to Switzerland is tense. Chloe needs supplemental oxygen, and every bout of turbulence sends my heart racing. David holds her hand the entire time, while I obsessively check her vitals and administer her medications exactly on schedule. The clinic in Zurich is nothing like American hospitals. It's a sleek, modern facility nestled against a backdrop of mountains, more like a wellness retreat than a place where desperately ill people come for last-chance treatments. Dr. Mueller, Chloe's new oncologist, is a tall woman with kind eyes and a no-nonsense manner. She reviews Chloe's records thoroughly before explaining the treatment protocol. The immunotherapy targets the specific genetic markers in Chloe's tumor. She explains, "We've seen promising results in cases similar to hers, but I must be clear this is still experimental." "But it could work," David says, more statement than question. "It could," she confirms, "and we will do everything in our power to make sure it does." The treatment begins the next day. Chloe is terrified but tries not to show it, making jokes about the science fiction equipment surrounding her bed. The first infusion takes 6 hours, during which I never leave her side, reading to her from her favorite books when she feels well enough to listen. The side effects hit that evening: violent chills, fever, pain that makes her cry out in the night. David and I take shifts, cooling her forehead with damp cloths, holding her hand through the worst of it. By morning, she's exhausted but stable. "Is it supposed to be this bad?" I ask Dr. Mueller anxiously. "The immune response can be intense," she explains, "but it's actually a good sign. It means her body is responding to the treatment." Days blur into weeks. Chloe receives infusions every 3rd day, each followed by the same cycle of side effects that gradually become less severe as her body adapts. Between treatments, when she feels strong enough, we take short walks in the clinic's garden, Chloe leaning heavily on my arm. During one of these walks, a month into treatment, she turns to me suddenly. "Why did you change your mind about me?" I consider the question carefully. "I didn't change my mind. I finally opened it. But I stole from you." "You were desperate and scared," I say, "and I never gave you reason to trust me before." She's quiet for a moment. "My mom would have liked you, I think, eventually." The comment catches me off guard. "You never talk about her." "It hurt too much," she admits, "and I thought it would make Dad sad, or that you'd be jealous." "I wish I'd known her," I tell her honestly. "She must have been amazing to raise someone as strong as you." 6 weeks into treatment, Dr. Mueller schedules a new round of scans. David and I wait anxiously in her office while Chloe undergoes the imaging. When the doctor finally arrives, her face gives nothing away. "The primary tumor has reduced in size by approximately 30%, she says, pulling up the images on her computer. "And the secondary tumors show signs of regression." David makes a choked sound beside me. "It appears to be yes," Dr. Mueller confirms. "We have a long way to go, but this is an excellent initial response." That night, after Chloe has fallen asleep, David and I sit on a bench outside the clinic, looking up at the stars. "I keep thinking about what would have happened if you hadn't found out," he says quietly. "If you'd just kicked her out like I was afraid you would." I take his hand. "But I didn't." "No," he agrees. "You saved her instead." 3 months later, Chloe's scans show no detectable cancer. Dr. Mueller cautions us that this doesn't mean she's cured. She'll need ongoing monitoring and possibly maintenance therapy, but for the first time since her diagnosis, the word remission enters our vocabulary. We return home to a house decorated with welcome banners made by Chloe's friends from school. She's thin and tired, her hair just beginning to grow back in soft tufts, but there's color in her cheeks and a light in her eyes I feared we'd lost forever. 2 weeks after our return, I broach the subject that's been on my mind since Switzerland. "I've been thinking," I tell Chloe as we sit together on the porch swing. "If you're comfortable with it, I'd like to legally adopt you." She looks at me in surprise. "I'm almost 18. "I know, but I want there to be no question that you're my daughter, in every way that matters." She's quiet for so long I start to worry I've overstepped. Then she says, "Does this mean I have to call you Mom?" "You can call me whatever you want," I assure her quickly. "Lisa is fine." She smiles, a mischievous glint in her eye. "What about evil stepmother? Just for special occasions?" I laugh, relief washing through me. I've been called worse. The adoption becomes official 3 weeks before Chloe's 18th birthday. The judge seems confused about why we're bothering with an adoption so close to her legal adulthood, but signs the papers anyway. Chloe clutches the document afterward, running her fingers over our names now legally connected. 1 year after our trip to Switzerland, Chloe's scans remain clear. Her hair has grown back thicker than before, curling around her face as she loads the last box into her dormitory room at State University, where she's starting as a freshman pre-med student. "Are you sure you have everything?" I ask, straightening her bedding for the 3rd time. "Lisa," she says, rolling her eyes in that perfectly teenage way that once irritated me but now fills me with joy. "I'm fine. You can stop hovering." "Let her hover," David says, carrying in a desk lamp we definitely didn't include on the college essentials list. "It's her right as your mom." Chloe catches my eye and smiles. "Yeah, I guess it is." As we drive away from campus, David reaches over and takes my hand. "Remember when you gave me that ultimatum?" I wince at the memory. "Not my finest moment." "Maybe not," he agrees. "But look where we ended up." I glance in the rearview mirror at the receding image of the university, where our daughter, because that's truly what she is now, is beginning her new life. A life she might not have had if things had gone differently that night I caught her stealing. I never thought I could love someone else's child as my own. I admit, I was so wrong about that, about everything. David squeezes my hand. Sometimes being wrong is the best thing that can happen to us.